Welcome back, everyone. In this installment, we're going to cover the front panel functionality of the new Fryette Deliverance Series II Plus. So let's get to it. Alright, so we're going to quickly run down how the front panel controls of the Series II Plus relate to its overall functionality. And we'll begin on the far right, oddly enough, with the power amp response controls. So just like in every other Deliverance iteration that has ever existed, we have a presence control, which is a high frequency variable feedback in the power section. And we have a depth control, which is variable damping. It controls a low frequency interaction between the amplifier and the speakers. Then moving over to the EQ section, same as it ever was in every Deliverance, we have passive, treble, middle, and bass controls. So now we're going to look at the preamp section, but we're going to start from the left-hand side here, in particular with the gain 1 control, okay? And this is not only a gain stage control, but it's also used for shaping the tone of the amp overall, okay? In fact, it's called a voicing control. So as we have it further down, we have a spankier, more articulate thing happening. And then should you desire it, as we turn clockwise, it's going to thicken up, get more saturated and girthy. As we move into gain 2, you know, that's the control that we'd more traditionally view as like the overdrive or the gain control, okay? So this is where the big nasties happen. And if you're a high gain aficionado, this is going to be your happy place. And now before I say anything more about the overall relationship between these two controls, we want to take a quick look at how the master volume section is being handled. So new in the Series II Deliverance and continued in the 2 Plus, we have this solo volume knob. And if we're not using a foot switch, it's totally not engaged. It's not working at all. And in that case, the master volume is handling the overall volume of the amplifier. But when we plug in our foot switch and we hit the solo function, ta-da, that volume control works. So really simply put, if we have nothing else happening here in the preamp, it's just set up as is, I can simply use this as a regular solo boost. So, you know, same tone, but a little more volume, a little less volume, a little more solo, a little more rhythm. What we have left here are these two mini toggle switches, okay? The bottom one is the more or less switch, which gives us the ability to add another stage of gain into the circuit. And the top one is the bright switch, so we can add brightness to our sound, okay? Now, each of these switches are 3 position, okay? So in the middle position, the switches are null and void. Nothing is happening in regard to the switch's functions. But if we're not using the foot switch, we can manually add that extra stage of gain. You see, gain 2 comes on. And we can also manually add brightness, or both if we want. Now, because they are 3 position toggle switches, the bottom mode is the ability to add brightness and more to the solo function. So now that I've added both of these to the solo function, when I click on the foot switch, we've got gain 2 happening. All right, well that's all fine and good, but what's the difference between the Series II and the 2 Plus, you say? Well, we're gonna get more in depth with Steve on the details down the road, but the salient point for you to understand today is that in this iteration, gain 2 is defeated entirely when we're in less mode. So now why would we do that, you ask? Well, in part 1 of this video, I was talking about the inspiration Steve had brought over from designing the Sound City line, with all those big authoritative 3D cleans. And in order to allow this new massage aspect of the amp to breathe, gain 2 needed to be allowed to step aside when asked, which opens the amp up for a much more versatile experience when using the foot switch. Cleans are way more dynamic and open, while all the gain that was on tap before is still there to be utilized when assigned. But you know what? In the end, you just gotta play it to believe it.